Stranger Things 4-volume 2 trailer Netflix. When a young boy disappears, his mother, a police chief and his friends must confront terrifying supernatural forces in order to get him back. In a small town where everyone knows everyone, a peculiar incident starts a chain of events that leads to a child's disappearance, which begins to tear at the fabric of an otherwise peaceful community. Dark government agencies and seemingly malevolent supernatural forces converge on the town, while a few of the locals begin to understand that more is going on than meets the eye. Charles J. When Will Byers suddenly goes missing, the whole town of Hawkins, Indiana, turns upside down. Many people are on the search for Will, including his mother Joyce, his brother Jonathan, his friends Mike, Dustin, and Lucas, Police Chief Jim Hopper, and other notable people. But one thing leads to another, creating a supernatural trail. And things get even weirder when a little girl with a shaved head comes into the story. After the mysterious and sudden vanishing of a young boy, the people of a small town begin to uncover secrets of a government lab, portals to another world and sinister monsters. The boy's mother, Joyce, desperately tries to find him, convinced he is in grave danger, while the police chief searches for answers. Trying to help find him, the boy's friends discover a strange little girl, who is on the run from bad men. Fiona. When Joyce's 12-year-old son Will goes missing, she launches a terrifying investigation into his disappearance with local authorities. As they search for answers, they unravel a series of extraordinary mysteries involving secret government experiments, unnerving supernatural forces, and a very unusual little girl. Dwelch 5742. Hawkins, Indiana, 1983. A young boy, Will Byers, goes missing near a top-secret government laboratory. That same night, a strange young girl appears at a diner in the town. She has telekinetic powers and is on the run from the laboratory. The laboratory is researching supernatural phenomena and might have unwittingly unlocked a gateway to another dimension. Grants. A love letter to the 80s classics that captivated a generation, Stranger Things is set in 1983 Indiana, where a young boy vanishes into thin air. As friends, family and local police search for answers, they are drawn into an extraordinary mystery involving top-secret government experiments, terrifying supernatural forces and one very strange little girl. It is November 16, 1983 in Hawkins, Indiana. Inside Hawkins National Laboratory, a scientist bursts out a door, running from something that isn't there. He runs to the elevator, tapping the floor button repeatedly, looking back and forth. He then gets in and taps the button again. He looks forward then up slowly, as he hears and sees something that we can't see. He is then pulled up as the elevator doors close, yelling loudly. We then see the Wheeler residence, as four friends Mike Wheeler, Will Byers, Dustin Henderson, and Lucas Sinclair play Dungeons and Dragons. We then see that the Demogorgon is played, as Will is pressured to cast Fireball. He rolls the die but it lands on the floor, with the group scrambling for it. Mike is then called by his mother, Nancy, to end the game. Meanwhile, the trio find it, but it is a 7, as only a 13 or higher can cast a fireball, which means Will was eaten. Will then leaves, after telling Mike that it was a 7. Will rides his bike through the woods, passing by Hawkins' laboratory. He then sees something weird in front of him, as he accidentally falls down a steep hill and crashes. He then abandons his bike and runs to his house. He unlocks the back door to find nobody home, as the thing out back is probably chasing him. He tries to call his parents, but only weird breathing is heard. Something then unlocks the bolt on the door. Will then runs to the shed in the backyard, where he sees the thing. The light glows brightly and then fades, revealing no one there anymore. The next morning, November 17th, Police Chief Jim Hopper wakes up shirtless. He then walks outside, enjoying the view and then prepares for work, smoking a cigarette. He then leaves. Will's mother, Joyce, and his brother, Jonathan, are arguing about if Will ever came home. It is then revealed that both were working. Jonathan took the night shift. Joyce then calls Nancy, and then asks if Will went home. She replies that he left around 8 o'clock. They all conclude, including his friends, that will probably left to go to school early. As they arrive, the trio are then bullied by Troy, the class bully, and an accomplice. Dustin is then picked on because of his condition, cleidocranial dysplasia, and his ability to flex bone. Lucas and Mike then acknowledge his ability. Two students, Nancy Wheeler, Mike's sister, and Barbara Holland, Nancy's friend, then discuss before school. Right after, Nancy's boyfriend, Steve, and she start making out in the bathroom. Nancy has to leave, while Steve asks if she would like to go anywhere, but she declines, having to study for her test. He then asks to come over at 8 p.m., to which she reluctantly agrees. Hopper then arrives at the police station. The assistant, Flo, tells Hopper that Joyce can't find her son. Drunk, he ignores Flo, but goes anyway. He then types a police report on Will, labeling him as missing. Joyce and Hopper don't instantly find a solution, as Joyce is trying to engage with him in a conversation, while Hopper is being unreliable. Three people then arrive at the laboratory, where they are greeted by Dr. Martin Brenner, one of the lab's key scientists. The four then put on hazmat suits, and go down the elevator to a dark room. While looking, they see black roots and flesh-like substances on the walls. They then come across a giant flesh-root substance on the wall. One of them asks about a girl. Brenner replies, she can't have gone far. A girl wearing a hospital gown and with a shaved head is then seen walking through the forest, alone. She sees the owner of a restaurant walk out, and decides to go there. She enters without notice, but as soon as she eats the food, the owner comes and tries to stop her, but is surprised. Hawkins Middle School then ends. Dustin, Lucas, and Mike then ask one of the teachers, Scott Clark, if the Heathkit Ham Shack radio had arrived. He says yes, due to them being prime members of the AV Club. A school staff member then asks for them, as they are being questioned for the disappearance of Will. They are told to not investigate, for their safety. Joyce then goes to look for Will at his fort in the forest, Castle Byers. She then remembers getting him tickets to see the 1982 film Poltergeist. But in reality, he is nowhere there at all. Jonathan is there looking for him as well, both calling out to him. Meanwhile, the restaurant owner feeds the mysterious girl. He asks him if she escaped, to no answer. He then takes the food and asks her for her name. She replies, 11, after he asks what the tattoo, 011, means. He then gives back the food and calls authorities to identify her. She then sees a fan and consciously stares at it. It stops. Hopper and his team then find Will's bike where it was, exactly in the same position. Brenner and others are then shown at the laboratory tapping in on conversations. We then switch to Joyce trying to reach her ex-husband, Lonnie, but his girlfriend, Cynthia, answers and hangs up. She then calls a neighbor, but the answering machine beeps. Hopper then arrives and gives them Will's bike, and he reveals evidence that Will came home. The family dog then barks at the shed, while Hopper investigates. He finds something behind a shelf, and the light blinking until one of his deputies come in, scaring Hopper. He then announces a search party for them to announce to the citizens. Mike and his family start fighting over investing for Will, but his family says no, by default, but his father enrages him and his mother, Karen. The search party is then shown in the forest. Hopper and Mr. Clark then exchange a conversation regarding Will, and then Sarah, her daughter. Clark is then informed that her daughter had died long ago, with the saying, lives with her mom in the city, implies that she is buried there. Mike and Lucas then discuss over the comm radios that they have. Mike suggests that Will might have put himself in danger to protect the trio, instead of protecting them, leading to a parent sacrifice. Lucas and Mike then resolve to meet each other at 10. While Mike leaves, he sees Steve climbing the window to Nancy's bedroom, with her soon closing it. The owner, Benny Hammond, and 011 then exchange a little conversation, before Agent Connie Fraser, disguised as though she is from social services, arrives. 011, looking from a distance, sees Fraser shoot Benny in the head, killing him. She then kills two agents and escapes through the back door. Dustin, Lucas, and Mike are then